Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. I used to think that support, real support, was enough to hold a marriage together. You show up, you listen, you lift them up when they fall. You pay attention to what matters to them, even if it means putting your own dreams on hold. That was my philosophy. That was how I loved her. When Amanda's freelance career started crumbling, I was the one who encouraged her to pivot, back to school, back to something stable. She cried in our kitchen the night she got rejected from her first job interview. I held her in my arms while the soup burned on the stove. I told her I'd take on extra hours at work if we needed it. We'd be fine. And we were. Or so I thought. Fast forward 8 months. She was thriving. Not just surviving, but glowing. Working in PR again, the way she used to before she put her dreams on hold for us, as she'd once put it. And I was genuinely happy for her. I celebrated every little win. I even bought champagne when she got her first big account. Told her we should toast to her comeback. She said we'd celebrate at her company's event instead, a high-end launch party for one of their fashion clients. She had been working on it for weeks and wanted me there by her side. So I went. Dressed up in the suit she liked, brought her flowers like it was prom again. The venue was gorgeous. One of those rooftop places that made you feel like money didn't actually come from effort, just air and good lighting. Everyone looked like they belonged in magazines. Amanda did too, honestly. Her red dress shimmered under the lights, and when she laughed, heads turned. I remember smiling from across the room, drink in hand, watching her shine. For a brief moment, I felt proud. Like I had helped her get here. I should have known better. They gathered everyone near the balcony for a toast, her client, her coworkers, a few friends from old gigs. She stood up, glass raised high, making a short speech about teamwork, perseverance, and believing in yourself when no one else does. People clapped, cheered. Someone whistled. She looked radiant. Then, just as she was stepping down, it happened. A man stepped up beside her. Tall, confident. One of the senior execs from her firm. I'd seen his name on some of her project proposals. They clinked glasses, laughed at some inside joke, and then, right there in front of everyone, she leaned in and kissed him. On the lips. Not a quick peck. Not an awkward mistaken gesture. No, it was intentional. Familiar. Her hand lingered on his chest for a beat too long. And when she pulled back, she smirked. That was the moment everything inside me went quiet. I didn't react. Not outwardly. No gasping. No glass dropping. I just stood there, still and silent, while the laughter and camera flashes buzzed around me like static. Some people noticed. A few glanced over, unsure if they should pretend they didn't see what they just saw. One woman, maybe a co-worker, tilted her head toward me like she pitied me. Or maybe she thought I knew. I didn't move. Amanda didn't even look in my direction. She kept mingling, kept laughing, kept holding her glass like the night was perfect. And maybe for her, it was. I stayed for 15 more minutes. Smiled when someone from her team introduced themselves to me. Said nice to meet you, nodded at their small talk, let them believe I was fine. When Amanda finally spotted me again, half an hour later, she came over with that same smile and asked if I was having a good time. I said yes. She leaned in, brushed her lips across my cheek, and whispered, "Let's not make it a late night. I'm exhausted." I nodded. We left together. From the outside, we probably looked like the perfect couple. But something in me had shifted the moment I saw that kiss. It wasn't anger. Not exactly. It was clarity. And it wasn't just about the kiss. It was about what it meant, that she didn't even hesitate to do it in public, in front of me. That she assumed I'd swallow it down and smile. She thought I was still that man who would support her no matter what. She had no idea who she had just kissed goodbye. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. She made coffee, humming while she scrolled through her phone at the counter, occasionally smiling at something I couldn't see. She asked if I wanted eggs. I told her I was fine. She didn't push. Just shrugged, grabbed her keys, and said she had a late morning call at the office, so she might work from the cafe for a bit. She didn't look me in the eye when she said it. And I didn't ask her who she was meeting. Truth is, I already knew. I sat on the couch long after the door closed, staring at the same spot on the floor, running the scene from last night over and over in my head. The way she leaned in. The way her fingers curled against his chest. The way nobody gasped. Like it was normal. Like I was the outsider in my own story. And maybe I had been for longer than I realized. I started noticing patterns. Amanda had been distant for months, but it wasn't just emotional anymore. It was logistical. Subtle shifts that didn't make sense when they first happened. Meetings that ran long. Projects that needed face time with upper management, even on weekends. I never pressed too hard. I trusted her. At least I thought I did. But now I was looking at things differently. The kiss wasn't spontaneous. It was casual, practiced. The way you greet someone you've kissed before. Probably more than once. And the way she brushed it off. No apology, no explanation. Told me she didn't expect consequences. Maybe she thought I was too soft, too supportive, too predictable. So I played my role. Just for a little longer. The next few days were quiet. I made sure of it. No confrontations. No tension. I kept my questions polite, my tone steady. I asked about her meetings. I nodded when she gave me answers. Sometimes I smiled. What I didn't do was believe a single word she said. On Friday, I told her I was working late. She smiled and said, "Okay, babe. Don't overdo it." I watched her reflection in the mirror as she fixed her hair. Not for me, but for someone else. She even sprayed that perfume I bought her 2 years ago, the one she said was too much to wear on normal nights. When I left, I didn't go to work. I parked near the coffee shop she mentioned. Waited. She didn't show. She wasn't at the cafe. She wasn't online either. Her location had been turned off on our shared app for a while now. A glitch, she once said. I never looked into it. Until now. Instead, I made a call. Not to a PI. Not yet. That felt too dramatic. Too permanent. No, I called a friend of mine, Caleb, who used to work cybersecurity for a local firm. We hadn't talked in a while, but he owed me a favor. I told him I was concerned about Amanda's safety, that I wanted to install something subtle in her car, just to be sure she wasn't being followed. A voice recorder. Simple, discreet. He didn't ask many questions. He just told me what to buy and how to set it up. That night, after she went to bed early with a migraine, I took her keys, walked out to the garage, and did what needed to be done. My hands didn't shake. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up. Left a note on the kitchen counter. Going to the gym. Don't wait up. Might get brunch with the girls. I stared at the handwriting for a long time. Amanda hadn't mentioned a brunch plan all week. I gave it a few hours before retrieving the device. Transferred the audio to my laptop. Put on my headphones. Pressed play. At first, it was nothing. Engine noise. A podcast. Then voices. A man's voice. Muffled at first, then clearer. "I can't believe you did that in front of him," he said. Chuckle. "You've got balls, babe." "Amanda, please." He didn't even flinch. Like I said, he's used to being invisible. I sat there, jaw clenched, every muscle in my body pulled taut like wire. He laughed again. "Still, public kiss? That's bold. You sure he's not going to blow up your spot?" "Amanda, he won't. He's the kind of man who forgives everything. That's what makes it so easy." She said it like a compliment. I let the audio keep playing. It got worse. They talked about the trip they were planning. The beach rental. The meetings that were really excuses. She even joked about how she could convince me to foot part of the cost by claiming it was a girls' retreat. He called her a genius. She called me predictable. It wasn't just betrayal, it was sport. A game between them. And I was the prize they were playing with. I sat in silence for hours after that. I didn't rage. Didn't throw anything. I just stared out the window, watching the sun sink behind the trees. Amanda thought she was in control. She had no idea I'd just stopped playing. I didn't change anything about my routine. That was key. Same wake-up time. Same good morning kiss on her cheek. She'd grown used to the hollow gestures and probably mistook my calm for weakness. That was fine. She had no idea the ground beneath her was already shifting. The next surprise didn't come from Amanda. It came from her coworker, someone I barely knew but had met once or twice at work dinners. Her name was Mia. Marketing department. Smart. Quiet. Always kept to herself. She emailed me out of the blue. Subject line: "I thought you should know." At first, I almost deleted it. Thought it was spam or maybe some phishing attempt. But then I opened it. There were no long paragraphs. No dramatic accusations. Just a short message. "I've seen what Amanda's doing. I don't know why she's treating you like this, but you deserve better. And I think she's going to make it worse soon. Just be prepared." Beneath it, a video attachment. Shaky phone footage, grainy but unmistakable. Amanda and the same guy from the rooftop party, Lucas. They weren't just meeting for brunch or walking through an office. This was a beach house. Her in a bikini. Him shirtless. The two of them laughing on the deck, a bottle of wine between them, her legs draped across his lap like it was the most natural thing in the world. Mia had captioned it. They think they're invisible outside the city. They're not. I didn't know what Mia's motives were, whether it was personal, professional, or something else. But I didn't care. She had given me confirmation. Not just of the affair, but of where they were going next. The beach trip they laughed about in the recording? It wasn't a fantasy. It was already booked. I checked Amanda's calendar. Blocked off next weekend with a vague, creative retreat note. Of course. Too vague to question. Too subtle to challenge. So I let her think I was still playing my role. And I started planning. That week, I began moving money. Quietly. A little here, a little there. Some savings into a new account in my name only. I canceled 2 shared subscriptions we rarely used. Amanda wouldn't notice until weeks later. I even changed the password to the streaming service, just to see if she'd ask. She didn't. She didn't notice anything. She was too busy smiling at her phone, too busy texting under the table, too busy saying she was drained and needed me time in the bedroom. I gave her the space. Let her think the marriage had settled into its final, silent form. Let her think I was too afraid to do anything about it. Let her get comfortable in the idea of me as the fool. The next Thursday, she dropped her beach lie. I'll be gone over the weekend. Remember that creative thing I told you about? She said over dinner, casually dipping a fry into ketchup like we were talking about the weather. I nodded. She didn't elaborate. Didn't offer to show me an itinerary. She didn't even try to make it believable. And honestly, she didn't have to. She thought I already believed everything she said. That night, she left her phone charging in the kitchen. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. I already had the address. The plan wasn't about revenge, not in the messy, confrontational, scream in the sand way you see in movies. I wasn't going to throw things or cause a scene. No, my plan was precise. And Amanda wouldn't even realize she'd lost until it was too late. I drove down to the coast the following evening, not to follow her, but to meet someone. A friend of mine, Damon, owns a photography and drone business out of town. He owed me a favor too. Back when he was starting out, I helped design his business site for free. He greeted me with a smirk. So you want surveillance footage? On vacation, cheaters? Something like that. We worked fast. Set up a discreet drone with live stream capability. He'd even installed thermal cams for night activity for wildlife, he said with a wink. I parked just a block away from their rented beach house. Watched from the back of my SUV as the screen flickered to life. There they were. On the deck. Wine again. Her laugh unmistakable. And later, when the lights inside dimmed and the heat signals showed their bodies tangled together on the bed, I didn't flinch. I wasn't there to feel anything. I was there to collect what I needed. That night, while Amanda was curled up in another man's arms, I wrote a letter. Not to her, but to her firm's HR department. Anonymous tip. Included a few photos. Mentioned the relationship between an account manager and a senior executive. Cited company policy on interoffice conduct, especially when tied to shared accounts. Signed it, a concerned party who believes in fairness. I didn't know what they would do with it. But that wasn't the point. Amanda's carefully crafted life wasn't as untouchable as she thought. The cracks were already forming. And by the time she came back home, bags in hand, glowing like a woman in love, she would never see the next part coming. When Amanda got back from her creative retreat, she wore sunglasses indoors like she was shielding herself from reality. I almost laughed. But I didn't. She dumped her overnight bag by the front door and made her way to the kitchen, humming to herself like she was still on vacation. Her hair was damp from the shower. Her skin slightly flushed from the sun. She looked satisfied. Hey, she said lightly. How was your weekend? I smiled. Productive. She didn't ask what I meant. She never really listened anymore. Just poured herself sparkling water like she was detoxing from something temporary. God, I needed that. Just space, you know? Time to breathe. I nodded. Yeah, space is important. She gave a little laugh, thinking I was agreeing with her. She couldn't have been more wrong. That night, I didn't say a word. Let her scroll through her phone beside me on the couch, snickering at messages she thought I didn't notice. She dozed off early. I tucked a blanket around her. Let her sleep. One more night of false security. Then came Monday. Amanda left the house at 9 a.m. Sharp, same as always. She kissed me on the cheek like a script she'd memorized and never thought to question. I watched her drive off with a kind of strange calm, like watching the last leaf fall before winter. At 9:45, I got the email. Subject, HR action, confidential follow-up. Turns out the company didn't take anonymous tips lightly, especially when they came with time-stamped photos and a brief outline of the account Amanda and Lucas had been co-managing, the same account now requesting to be reassigned. Apparently, Lucas's wife, yes, he was married, had also sent in a formal complaint over the weekend. The pieces were falling fast. By noon, Amanda's name was removed from the project portfolio on her firm's website. By 2 p.m., I got a call. She was sobbing. "They're suspending me pending investigation," she choked out, voice trembling. "They think I was involved with a client, or a colleague." Or she cut herself off. "Were you?" I asked. Silence. She didn't answer. Not directly. "They said it violates some clause about public conduct." And God, did someone say something? I didn't lie. But I didn't confess either. I just let the silence sit there. "Amanda," I said slowly, "you told me once that I forgive everything. That it makes things easy for you." She froze. "You weren't wrong. I did forgive a lot. I let things slide that I shouldn't have. I let you grow comfortable thinking I was too afraid to do anything about it." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You heard. More than heard." There was a pause, then a desperate shift in her tone, pleading, soft. "It didn't mean anything, okay? It was stupid. I didn't think. You didn't think I mattered. You didn't think I'd ever stop playing the fool." She was crying now. "Please, don't do this. I messed up. I know I did, but we can fix it, right? We've been through worse." "No," I said calmly. "We haven't." Then I ended the call. That evening, when she got home, the locks had been changed. Her overnight bag, the one she dropped on Friday, was waiting for her on the porch. Next to it, a small envelope. Inside were two things. A printed photo of her on the beach, wine glass in hand, legs across Lucas's lap, and a signed document I had filed earlier that morning, the notice of separation and property division. No lawyers yet. Just the first step. My first move. She didn't knock. She just stood there, staring at the door like it might change its mind. Like this was just another one of our quiet arguments that would blow over by morning. Amanda didn't try to call that night. She stood on the porch for maybe 5 minutes. Didn't knock. Didn't shout. Just stood there with her hands shaking at her sides, mascara smudged and her eyes flicking between the bag and the door like she couldn't quite process what was happening. I watched her from the upstairs window, not because I wanted to hurt her. I just needed to see for myself that it was really over. That she finally realized this wasn't another one of her power games, that I wasn't going to be the fallback she always counted on. She eventually picked up her bag, turned around, and walked down the steps. She didn't look back. In the weeks that followed, I learned that Lucas was let go. Quietly, of course. His family had influence, and they wanted the scandal kept internal. Amanda was asked to resign by the end of the month. Word got around, though not officially. The kind of whispers that grow in hallways. Clients pulling out. Colleagues distancing themselves. She tried calling once. Left a voicemail that started with, "I just want to talk," and ended with, "You ruined my life." I didn't call back. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad, either. Just free. I went back to my life slowly. Picked up hobbies I'd shelved for years. Started meeting friends I hadn't seen since our wedding. There was a strange lightness to waking up and not bracing for another small betrayal. It's funny what becomes normal when you're trying not to admit the truth to yourself. And one day, I opened my laptop, deleted the folder labeled proof, and didn't even flinch. It was over. Really over. But there was another path I could have taken. If I had confronted her the night of the party, right there on that rooftop, in front of everyone, I know how it would have played out. She would have gasped, played the victim, maybe even cried. Claimed I misread things, said it was nothing, said I embarrassed her in front of her coworkers. Lucas would have chimed in with some slick excuse, laughing it off as just a joke or a drunken moment. And in that chaos, I would have looked like the unstable one, the insecure husband lashing out. The whispers wouldn't have been about her betrayal. They would have been about my meltdown. And she would have played it perfectly, turned the narrative against me, used that moment as ammo for months, maybe even years. She'd say I humiliated her, that she couldn't trust me anymore. And I would have spent the next chapter of our marriage trying to apologize for her choices. That version of me? He doesn't sleep well. I've often imagined a different outcome, one where I stayed. Where I swallowed the truth like a bitter pill and convinced myself it wasn't as bad as it looked. Where I told myself the kiss meant nothing. That the voice recording was just flirtation. That the photos were out of context. In that life, we're still together. She still lies. Still disappears on weekends. Still sleeps with one hand on her phone and her heart somewhere else entirely. But I stay. Maybe we buy a new house. Go to counseling. Pretend to repair things while the rot spreads under the floorboards. We smile in photos. We post anniversary captions. We become experts at pretending. I still support her. Still protect her reputation. But quietly, I die a little every year. That version of me? He doesn't have a face anymore. He's just a shadow. But that's not how it ended. She crossed a line in public, thinking I wouldn't do anything. And when I walked away, without a word, without a scream, without lifting a finger, that was the first time she really saw me. Not as the doormat, but as the man she lost. And that, ironically, was the only thing I ever gave her that truly left her speechless.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.